What if I told you that the very symbol used in modern medicine, the staff with a serpent coiled around it, is not just a symbol of healing, but of divine awakening? A mystery older than the pyramids hides in plain sight, passed down through the hands of shamans, priests, magi, and mystics. We see it carved into temple walls, gripped by gods, held aloft by Moses, and twisted into the emblems of secret orders. Yet few truly grasp its meaning. The staff and serpent. To most, it's just a historical symbol and emblem. But in truth, it is a profound spiritual map, one that points to the inner architecture of the soul, the path of transformation, and the awakening of hidden energy within us. Why a serpent of all creatures? Why a staff? And why do they appear together across so many ancient cultures, from the Greek Caduceus and the Egyptian Was-scepter to the rod of Asclepius and the Hindu Kundalini coil? In today's video, we will journey through the veils of history, pierce the surface of symbolism, and unveil the real meaning behind the staff and serpent. We'll explore how this ancient image reveals the secrets of inner alchemy, divine authority, and the path to enlightenment itself. We'll trace its roots through Egyptian magic, Hermetic philosophy, Hindu yogic science, and even biblical mysticism. And most importantly, we'll show how this symbol isn't just something to observe, but to embody. This is not just about knowledge. It's about transformation. So if you've ever felt that strange pull toward ancient symbols, if you've ever wondered why a simple staff and snake could stir something deep in your soul, then stay with us. Because what you're about to learn may change how you see your body, your energy, and your purpose in this world. Now, are you ready to remember what your soul already knows? Long before hospitals adopted the serpent-entwined staff as a symbol of healing, long before modern science tried to separate myth from medicine, there were those who understood that healing was not merely physical, it was spiritual. And they encoded that knowledge in symbols. The staff and the serpent appears across civilizations, often with eerily similar meanings. Its presence is no coincidence, it is a transmission, a message. A cipher for those who can see. Let's begin in ancient Egypt, where the Was-scepter was carried by the gods and pharaohs. It was a staff symbolizing dominion, spiritual authority, and the ability to guide the energies of the invisible world. The serpent, meanwhile, was seen not only as a guardian of sacred places, but also as a protector of knowledge. In many depictions, serpents crown the head of divine beings, living symbols of awakened power and eternal awareness. Move to Greece, and we encounter Asclepius, the god of medicine, whose rod is entwined with a single serpent. His healing was not mechanical, it was sacred. In his temples, dream incubation rituals were practiced, where healing came through visions, purification, and spiritual guidance. The serpent here was not feared, it was revered, representing the process of rebirth and transformation. The Caduceus, often confused with Asclepius' staff, was wielded by Hermes, the messenger of the gods and guardian of liminal spaces, boundaries between life and death, mind and spirit, seen and unseen. His twin serpents coiled symmetrically around the staff represented dual forces, yin and yang, Ida and Pingala, light and dark, brought into harmony. In Hindu tradition, the symbolism appears again through Kundalini Shakti, the serpent power coiled at the base of the spine. It lies dormant in most, but when awakened, it spirals upward along the central channel, Sushumna. Weaving through energy centers, chakras, much like serpents winding around a staff. The goal? Divine union, full illumination. In the Bible, Moses raises a bronze serpent on a staff to heal the Israelites. Yet another clue that the ancients understood the serpent as a spiritual force of healing, when aligned correctly. Across the mystery schools, from Pythagorean initiations to Hermetic rites, the staff symbolized the spine, the vertical axis of the human temple, while the serpent represented the life force or consciousness ascending that axis. It is the great allegory of initiation. The sleeping serpent is our dormant power, and the staff is the path it must climb. But why a serpent? Because the serpent is alive in the language of symbols. It is shedding skin. It is rebirth. It is instinct, wisdom, and danger all in one. It can crawl on the earth or rise like a coil of smoke. The ancients did not see this as evil, they saw it as a paradox. Sacred power always comes with risk. The serpent is the force, but the staff is the discipline. Together, they represent the union of power and control, spirit and form. In alchemy, this same pattern is repeated. The philosopher must raise the mercurial serpent within through the vessel of the body. The fire of transformation does not burn outward, it ascends inward. And so we find ourselves looking not at a symbol, but at a spiritual map, one that was carved into stone, etched into scrolls, and passed down through secret rites to remind humanity the journey to divinity is already coded within you. The staff and serpent are not simply images, they are a process, a promise, and a path. Core explanation. To truly understand the staff and serpent, we must stop seeing it as something external. This symbol is not a relic, it is a reflection of you. Let us begin with the staff. In esoteric symbolism, the staff is far more than a rod or a walking stick. It is a representation of the spine, your inner axis, your tree of life, your sacred pillar. It is the vertical channel that connects the lower realms of instinct and survival with the higher realms of consciousness and spirit. Now consider this, the staff does not move. It stands upright, steady, anchored. It is order. It is the principle of stillness in a swirling world. It is the foundation upon which the transformative energies must rise. And what rises along it? The serpent. The serpent is motion. It is force. It is the inner fire, the life energy, what the Hindus call Kundalini, what the Taoists call Qi, and what the Hermeticists refer to as the divine spark. In almost every tradition, this energy begins coiled at the base, symbolizing its dormant state, waiting, watching, silent. When you engage in spiritual practice, whether it be breathwork, meditation, ritual, or devotion, you begin to stir the serpent. It does not simply travel upward. It spirals, weaving from side to side, activating energetic centers along the spine. This is why in yogic tradition we see the Ida and Pingala, two currents moving like serpents in opposite directions, intertwining the central channel known as Sushumna, the staff itself. This rising is not physical, it is energetic. As the energy ascends, it awakens what are called chakras, but these are not just colored discs. They are gates of consciousness. At each level, something within you is purified, tested, and illuminated. At the base, you confront survival, fear, and grounding. At the sacral center, you face desire, emotion, and creativity. At the solar plexus, you awaken will, power, and identity. At the heart, you merge love with wisdom. At the throat, you open divine expression. At the third eye, you pierce illusion and gain inner sight. And at the crown, you dissolve. This is the full ascent of the serpent, from earthbound instinct to cosmic awareness. But it is not merely a straight path. The serpent's coiling motion reveals something crucial. Duality must be integrated. Light and dark, masculine and feminine, active and passive, sun and moon. All are encountered along the way. This is the secret behind the Caduceus. The two serpents are polarities, and the staff is their reconciliation. At the top of the staff in the ancient Caduceus is often shown a pair of wings. These are not ornamental. They are the final result. The wings symbolize the moment the energy breaks free from the limits of the body, when the seeker transcends material form and awakens to the truth of their immortal nature. But here lies a forgotten truth. The serpent cannot rise without the staff. The energy must have a structure. Force must have form. Otherwise, it becomes chaos, overstimulation, imbalance, even madness. That is why ancient initiates were trained gradually with discipline and sacred technique. To awaken the serpent without preparing the staff is like summoning a storm with no vessel to hold it. In the mystery schools, this inner work was called the great work, the conscious refinement of the self through trial, insight, and inner alchemy. The serpent was not feared, it was revered. And the staff was not decoration, it was initiation. Thus, the staff and serpent together are not just a symbol of healing, they are a living diagram of spiritual ascent. A reminder that within your own body lies the very same path taken by mystics, sages, and adepts through the ages. But the ascent is not complete. There is more, much more. We now continue our journey upward, following the serpent as it climbs the sacred staff. But as we ascend, the symbols become more refined, more subtle, because this is where outer knowledge gives way to inner gnosis. So far, we've seen the serpent as life force and the staff as the central spiritual axis. But in the higher stages of the ascent, this relationship takes on a deeper dimension. In Hermetic philosophy, all true transformation is said to occur through the union of opposites. The serpent is not just a current of energy, it is the sacred tension between polarities, always seeking balance. The staff is the still point, the reconciler. Together, they mirror the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without. Now consider this, why does the serpent coil? Why spiral? Because evolution is not linear. Spiritual awakening is not a staircase. It is a spiral staircase, ever circling, revisiting old lessons from higher perspectives. As the serpent ascends, it loops back to familiar challenges, but now with greater awareness. This is the sacred geometry of transformation. The serpent teaches us that real growth is not escape, it is integration. And then there are the wings. You'll notice that in the Caduceus, Hermes staff, the serpents meet at the top, just beneath the pair of open wings. This moment is not ornamental. It is symbolic of transcendence. The wings mark the final alchemical stage called coagulation, where the fragmented parts of the self unify into the higher self and spiritual consciousness takes flight. This is what the serpent's rise accomplishes. It is the process of turning the human into the divine human, the homo luminous that mystics of many traditions spoke of. The wings are the reward, the gift of seeing with inner vision, moving without attachment, living with divine awareness. But not all serpents in myth are friendly. This is where the teachings become more nuanced. In many traditions, the serpent also represents temptation, deception, and chaos. Think of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the dragon in apocalyptic visions, or the venomous snakes in desert myths. Why this contradiction? Because power without purity corrupts. When the life force is misused or channeled through ego, greed, or imbalance, it becomes destructive. A rising serpent can awaken divine bliss or madness. That's why, in the ancient schools, initiates were taught purification before power. The staff had to be strong, disciplined, centered, morally aligned before the serpent was awakened. Otherwise, the same energy that lifts you can also consume you. The serpent is the fire, but the staff is the container. You might notice, too, that many great teachers carried staffs. Moses, who parted seas and raised a serpent to heal his people. Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, who carried the staff of knowledge. Hermes, who traveled between realms with his winged Caduceus. These were not just walking sticks. They were marks of spiritual authority, evidence that the bearer had tamed the inner serpent and could now guide others. Even in modern symbolism, the rod of Asclepius, a staff with one serpent, remains the emblem of medicine and healing. But now you know why. Healing, at its core, is the realignment of energy, is the restoration of flow. It is the serpent's path through the staff uninterrupted. And yet, this knowledge is not limited to saints or sages. It is within you, right now. Dormant, maybe? Waiting, perhaps? But present. Your spine is the staff. Your breath is the wind that stirs the serpent. Your consciousness is the alchemist. Every emotion, every breath, every spiritual practice is either strengthening your staff or awakening your serpent. The question is, are you doing so consciously? Because if you are, then you are walking the ancient path. The staff and serpent is not just a symbol you study, it is a process you live. Practical application. Now that we've unveiled the deeper meaning of the staff and serpent, the question becomes, how do we apply this ancient wisdom in our modern, everyday lives? Because this isn't just mythology. It's not just theory. This symbol is a living map of your inner world, and you can activate it. Let's begin with the staff, your spine, your central axis. In every mystical tradition, the spine is sacred. It's not only a structure of bone and nerve, it's the pillar of energy, the channel through which the serpent rises. When it is misaligned, slouched, or blocked, your energy cannot flow freely. So, the first practice is postural awareness. Practice 1, the still staff. Each morning or evening, sit with your spine upright like a staff rooted into the earth and pointing toward the heavens. Breathe gently and visualize a golden line of light running from your root to your crown. This alignment, over time, becomes a sacred posture, one that invites stillness, power, and presence. Do this consistently and you'll begin to feel the subtle current moving within. Now let's awaken the serpent, but gently, wisely, with reverence. Practice 2, breath as the serpent's breath. Breath is the bridge between the visible and invisible realms. In many traditions, conscious breathing is how the serpent is first stirred. Try this simple pranic breath. Inhale slowly through the nose for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly through the nose for 4. Hold for 4. Repeat this cycle for several minutes, visualizing the breath as a silken serpent coiling up your spine with each inhale and settling with each exhale. Over time, this breath awakens energetic awareness. You may begin to feel tingling, warmth, or pulsing sensations along the spine. These are not imagination. These are signs of dormant energy activating. But breath alone is not enough. The serpent only ascends where the path is clear. Practice 3. Chakra purification. Think of each chakra as a gate along the staff. If there is unresolved fear, guilt, shame, or resentment, these gates become blocked. One powerful practice is mantric sound vibration. Chant the bija, seed, sounds softly to activate and clear each center. Root Tlam, sacral Bam, solar plexus Ram, heart Ym, throat Ham, third eye Om, crown Silence. As you chant, focus your attention on the corresponding area of the body. Imagine the serpent pausing at each gate, unlocking it, and rising higher. Even a few minutes a day begins the process of inner purification. Practice 4. Walking the path in daily life. Spiritual awakening is not limited to meditation mats. It happens in how you respond to challenges, how you choose awareness over reaction, how you transmute emotions instead of suppressing them. Ask yourself, am I feeding my serpent with fear or love? Is my staff steady or shaking under the weight of emotional storms? When you choose presence in the face of chaos, you are walking the staff. When you transform anger into clarity, desire into discipline, you are taming the serpent. And as your inner work deepens, strange things may begin to happen. Synchronicities, sudden insights, vibrational shifts. These are signs that the inner architecture is changing. Do not fear them. Observe them. Honor them. But remain grounded. Because here lies the final key: balance. The serpent without the staff burns. The staff without the serpent is empty. Together, they represent the full spiritual path: energy awakened, wisdom embodied, spirit grounded in matter. And this, dear seeker, is the path you've already begun, simply by listening, reflecting, and remembering. Conclusion. Now you understand, the staff and the serpent was never just a symbol. It is you. It is your spine and your breath, your discipline and your desire, your stillness and your awakening. The ancients did not leave us instruction manuals. They left us symbols, silent, potent, eternal. And within this one image lies the entire path of inner transformation, a grounded structure through which divine energy rises, coils, tests, purifies, and ultimately transcends. You are not here to memorize this truth. You are here to live it. Every time you sit in meditation, stand tall in integrity, breathe with awareness, or speak from truth, you are holding your staff. You are raising your serpent. You are activating the forgotten technology of the soul. The staff and serpent is not a relic of forgotten times. It is the geometry of spiritual evolution. It is the anatomy of the awakened human. It is the secret that was never hidden, only waiting to be remembered. So now ask yourself, how will you walk your path? Will you let the serpent sleep, or will you rise with it? Because the moment you begin, the moment you choose presence over noise, discipline over chaos, vision over distraction, you become a living temple, a guardian of the flame, a bearer of the staff, a master of the serpent, and that is the beginning of true spiritual power. If this message resonated with something deep inside you, something ancient, something remembering, then let this be your sign to go further. Meditate on the symbol, practice the breath, align your spine, observe your energy, and most importantly, become the mystery. Until next time, walk in wisdom and rise in light.